Let us start with a Shanti Mantra. This peace chant is on page 46 of this book, Universal Prayers. Let us chant. Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shrunayama Devaah Bhadram Pashyemakshabhiryajatraah Sthirairangaistuštuvagam sastanubhihi Yashema devahitam yadayuhu Swasti na indro vruddhashravah Swasti nah pusha vishvavedah Swasti nastarksho arishtanemihi Swasti no brahaspatir dadatu Om Shanti 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 Om. May we hear only auspicious sounds with our ears. With our eyes, may we see only auspicious sights. With all our sense organs of perception, may we perceive the divine presence of the Lord in all beings. With all our sense organs of action, may we perform all our actions as adoration, as worship of the Lord. In this way, with a strong body, with fit sense organs, and a pure mind, may we spend the rest of this lifespan granted to us by Him in such a way that we adore Him through all our actions. May His blessings in all His manifestations be upon us all, always. Om peace. May there be peace and joy in our hearts. May there be peace and harmony amongst all beings. And may there be peace everywhere in nature. Good evening. Let us continue our study of the Sthitaprajna Lakshana, the qualities of a sage of steady wisdom. We are studying the two verses 62 and 63 in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. In these two verses, Bhagavan Sri Krishna has very nicely explained, delineated how desire arises in the human mind and what happens afterwards. The desire and its consequences. If the desires are not properly controlled and if they are indulged in without thinking, the consequences may be undesirable, indeterminate. We don't know what will happen. If we control the desires and fulfill them only if they are dharmic desires, then they will lead us to good results. If the desires are not bad, it is okay to fulfill them with moderation. If the desires are not good, adharmic desires, opposed to dharma, then if we fulfill them, they will lead to undesirable results. In these two verses, 62 and 63, Bhagavan Sri Krishna has given 8 steps, beginning with the thought process in our mind. We think something, always some thought will be there in our minds. It's never empty. You maybe in Sushupti, deep sleep, you are not thinking anything, mind is at rest. But in waking state and dream state, we will be thinking, mind will be active. We are concerned with waking state. Now, 8 steps are described, beginning with thought. Thought arises in the mind. We'll examine all these 8 steps in detail. Now, to begin with, I shall give a very quick overview of all the 8 steps. We want to know what we are going to study. And then we will take up each of these steps in some detail. So the verses are like this. Dhyayato vishayan pumsah sangasteshu upajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodho bhijayate krodhat bhavati sammoha sammohat smriti vibhramaha smriti bhramshat buddhi nasho buddhi nashat pranasyati. Eight things happen in sequence. First thing is dhyana. Dhyana means thinking about some object. Dhyayatah pumsah, of a person who thinks about some object. Any kind of thought, good, bad, very good, very bad, indifferent, in between, indifferent, any thought, if it comes, thought is always about an object. The mind can think about imaginary objects or real objects or something event not happened an event that happened a long time ago or event that is happening now or something that may or may not happen in the future. Anything. There is no limit to what the mind can think about. So when we think about an object, Vishaya means sense object, any sense object, what happens? Second step, thought leads to attachment. Jayato Vishayan Pumsaha Teshu, in those sense objects, Teshu Vishayeshu, Sangaha Upajayate, attachment comes. Attachment means a strong attraction towards that object. That object can be anything. It can be a person, it can be an event, it can be a specific thing, object, anything. It can be something intangible, anything. So a strong attraction towards that object comes. Why this attraction comes? Because the mind is seeking happiness. We are always seeking happiness. That is the constant thing. Whatever we do is intended to make us happy, bring us happiness. So a strong attraction towards that object or some action arises in the mind, Sangha. Sangha means Priti Asakti. Shankara translates the word Sangha as Priti or Asakti. Love for that object, strong desire for that object, interest in that object arises in the mind by thinking about an object. We are drawn towards it, hoping that contact with that object will bring us happiness. So, Sangha Teshu Pajayat. Once the Sangha attachment comes, attachment turns into desire. Sangat Sanjayate Kama. Kama means articulated desire in the mind. In Sangha attachment, there is a strong attraction, but it turns into an articulated, well-formulated desire in the mind. Next step, Sangha leads to Kama, desire. Desire can be of any kind. Good desires, bad desires, very good desires, very bad desires, all kinds of desires arise. We will analyze why desire arises later. First, we will go through the 8 steps quickly. Once desire arises, it motivates us, propels us to action. We have to do something to fulfill the desire, or we have to suppress the desire, or we have to deal with the desire in some way. Some action is warranted. Kama sanjayate krodhaha. If the desire is fulfilled, it will come back, it will not go away. It will come back again for more fulfillment. If the desire is not fulfilled, it will turn into anger and depression, dejection, disappointment, and will not go away. Either way, when desire comes, we will be already in a difficult situation. If the desire is fulfilled, then it becomes stronger and comes back. A stage will come when desire cannot be fulfilled for whatever various reasons. Then it turns into anger. Kamat krodho vijayate. Krodha. Krodha is a great enemy. We will examine all these steps in detail. Once anger comes, then a person loses the ability to think clearly. Actually, a person who is very angry loses the ability to think clearly, cannot discriminate what is right, what is wrong, what is proper, what is improper. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. Sammoha means delusion comes. Doesn't know what is right, what is wrong. Sammoha, that is step number 5. Jnana, thinking. Sangha, attachment. 2. 3, kama. 4th, krodha. 5th is sammoha, delusion. Once sammoha delusion comes, next step is sammoha smriti vibhrama. Smriti vibhrama. Smriti means remembrance, recollection. Remembering something, recollection. Smriti vibhrama means loss of memory. Memory of what? Memory of who am I, what is the present situation, what I should be doing, what I should not be doing. All those things are forgotten. We forget who we are, what is our goal in life, what I should be doing, what I should not be doing. All those things will evaporate from the mind. Sammoha smriti vibhrama, 6 steps. When that happens, when the loss of memory happens, next step is smriti bhramshat buddhi nasha. Buddhi nasha means the intellectual power becomes diminished, becomes masked. The ability to discriminate between right and wrong. Buddhi means intellect. Ordinarily, the word buddhi is translated as intellect. Intellect means nischayatmika buddhi. That is how buddhi is defined. That faculty of our mind which enables us to discriminate between the real and the unreal, between right and wrong, between eternal and ephemeral, temporary and permanent, that ability to discriminate will go away from the mind, it will be lost. Lost means it will be masked by the anger. Sammoha smriti bhramshat buddhi nasho. A person does not know what is right, what is wrong, ends up doing things that should not be done. Later on, when the wave of anger passes, when sanity returns, if it returns, then that person will regret, oh, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Then already action has been done. Words have been spoken, which should not have been spoken, and consequences are inevitable. So we should control these things before they happen. Buddhi nashat pranasyati. Last step is pranasha. Pranasha means rock bottom. The person's life will be ruined. Every day in newspaper you see a lot of crime reports, people doing all kinds of things. We'll analyze why crime happens in a little bit. And if you analyze, there are 3 reasons why people do bad things. We'll come to that question in a little bit. Now, it's to these 8 steps. Thinking about an object leads to attachment. Attachment becomes desire 3. Desire, if not fulfilled, becomes anger. Anger leads us to delusion. Delusion causes loss of memory. Loss of memory causes loss of intellectual power, thinking power, and that leads us to ruin. So this is a downward spiral. Once a person gets into the downward spiral, then it's very difficult to withdraw from that and find an exit. It's like a loop. Once you get into the loop, we don't know how to exit from that one. So we have to understand that we should not get into the loop in the first place. We should not become angry. Karma should be controlled. All those things we will examine. How to find exit from this loop. That will be the next topic. Now let us understand each of these steps. In this downward spiral, once a person gets into it, it's very hard to reverse. So it is explained very nicely with imagery. I mentioned this before also in the last class. Shankaracharya gives the imagery, creates an imagery in the Viveka Chudamani. This verse number 325. Those of you who are studying Viveka Chudamani, verse number 325. There Shankara compares the situation to a child. A person who gets stuck in this spiral is compared to a child which is playing a ball, bouncing a ball, dribbling a ball at the top of a staircase. And by mistake, if the ball goes to the lower step, one step lower, then it will not rise back to the same height. Then child has to go down to catch up with it. Then the ball goes to the next lower step. Child has to go down. The ball goes on from one step to another step downwards. The downward movement of the ball will continue until the ball reaches the last stage, the floor, from where it cannot go any further down. So it will go to the rock bottom. That means a person may end up in jail or even in a worse place. So we should control this. We should check this downward spiral, movement in the downward spiral. So here, now let us go back to the first step. Why would we think about various things? Why the thought arises in any thought, even good thought? Why does it arise in the mind? Let us understand that one. The reason why any thought comes to the mind is we are not aware of our true nature. According to Vedanta, our true nature is infinite, eternal, pure consciousness, Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi, I am that Brahman, says the Upanishad. Tattvamasi, thou art that. That is what we truly are. We have always been that. And we are that now, and will always be that. It will not change. But for whatever reason, we are not experiencing our true nature. We are only experiencing the body, mind, which are all added on upadhis, adjuncts. Body, mind, sense organs, and all the outside objects, whole world is or upadhi. Upadhi means something that is not intrinsic, but something that is added on to the self. Why? There is no clear answer. Maya, we can say whatever answer. It's a different topic. Now, the fact is that we are not experiencing our true nature, which is what? Complete, full, perfect Satchidananda. Infinite, eternal, unconditional bliss is what we are, not what we have. It's not a property. It is our nature. We are that. That cannot change. If it's a property, it can go up and down, it can diminish, it can increase, it can go away. Happiness, that Ananda is not something that we have. Ananda is what we are. We cannot lose what we are. We are always what we are. That is our true nature. That is not, we don't know that one now. What are you experiencing? Only body, mind in the outside world. What other people do, what's happening in this country, what's happening in politics and sports and so many things. So once this thought comes to the mind, any thought comes to the mind, that means we have already departed from our pristine state where we should always be. We should always be aware of our true self and remain established. That means Sita Prajna. We should be Sita Prajna. Prajna means awareness, Sita means fixed in the self. If you are not a Sita Prajna, our mind thinks about various objects instead of resting in the self, and the thoughts will lead to attachment. Actually, thought is what we are. In the Ashtavakra Samhita, which many of you studied with Atmajnanandaji Maharaj, there is a very interesting verse in the first chapter. Ashtavakra Samhita, there's a very interesting treatise on Advaita Vedanta. Sri Ramakrishna had only Swami Vivekananda Naren read Ashtavakra Samhita behind closed doors. It is pure non-dualism, Advaita Vedanta. There, Ashtavakra, the sage, the Brahmajnani Ashtavakra says, whatever a person thinks, that is what he will become. Swami Vivekananda also explains this in the Karma Yoga lecture. What we are now, this moment, is a sum total of all the thoughts, impressions we have gathered for a long time, since our existence, even in previous lives. We have, in other words, what I am at this moment is this personality which you are watching at this moment is nothing but the sum total of all the impressions that I have myself gathered for a long time in the past. That means this present personality is an edifice that is built by oneself, impression by impression over a long period of time. Impression means any time that we say, do or speak, say something or do something or think something, an impression is made in the mind, and those impressions become the samskara. Sum total of all the impressions is what we are today. This is verse number 11 in chapter 1 of Ashtavakra Samhita. Those of you who studied that book, you may want to make a note of this one. Very interesting verse, important verse. Ashtavakra Samhita, chapter 1, verse 11. There Ashtavakra says, Baddha bhimani baddho hi mukto mukta bhimanyapi kim vadantiha satyayam yamati sagatir bhavet. Same thing Sri Ramakrishna said in the Gospel. Baddha bhimani baddho hi. If a person constantly says, I am bound, I am limited, I am weak, that's what he will become. If a person says, no, I am strong, I am pure, I have taken the name of God, what can afflict me? Then he will become pure. Mukto mukta bhimanyapi. If a person says, I am mukta, I am free, what is binding me? If you take that stance and constantly remain in that disposition that I am free, nothing binds me, then we are free. We create our own bondage and freedom. It's all in the mind. Yamati sagatir bhavet. What as the mind is, so the destiny. Gati means goal or destination, where you are going to go, what you are going to become. Yamati, as I think, so I become. Therefore, it is very important to control what we think, monitor our thoughts. Constantly we should be mindful of what we are thinking. Otherwise, the mind goes on from one thought to another thought, from another thought to another thought, and we don't know how the whole day goes. The mind is wandering from one thought to another thought without any purpose, aimlessly. That should not be allowed to happen. So the first step, dhyanam, we should monitor what I am thinking about. Is this a worthwhile object that I should think about? Or is it something useless, it's only waste of time and adding more garbage to my mind? If you think of bad objects, sense objects and immoral intentions and desires, we are adding nothing but garbage to our mind. That should not be allowed to happen. We should think about only good thoughts. So we should remember that the moment we think about something, we have departed from our pristine state of Satchidananda. So we have to go back to that state. How to go back? That will be the next topic we will discuss after this one. So once a thought comes about an object, second step is Sangha. Sangha, attachment. Strong desire, strong attraction comes towards that object. Something that is very desirable, I want to have it, or I want to do it, that will bring me happiness, that thought will come. And that is the precursor to desire. Sangha, attachment, is a precursor to desire. So attachment will turn into desire. Oh, I want to have it. Desire means in the mind it's already well articulated and becomes strong. I want to have it. I want to do it. So that is kama. Once kama comes, then we are in a difficult situation. If you fulfill it, it will come back later, stronger, demanding more. If you don't fulfill it, anger comes, dejection comes, depression comes, disappointment comes. Now, what will happen if you fulfill it? Will it go away? No. To illustrate this, a desire cannot be gotten rid of by fulfilling it. The more you fulfill it, the stronger it will become, and it will keep coming back, seeking more satisfaction. The very nice story in the Mahabharata and also Bhagavata Purana, story of a king, Yayati. This story has come before, but it very nicely illustrates what happens if we keep on fulfilling desire and what happens if we don't. Especially what happens if we fulfill the desire. So there was this king, Yayati, a young man, and he got married to a lady. I think her name was Devayani. And then this lady, Devayani, extracted a promise from Yayati before marriage that he should not take another wife. She should be the only wife. Those days, kings could take more than one wife, but he promised to his wife that he will not take anybody else as a second wife. So for some time they were happy, life went on. Then in course of time, Yayati falls in love with another woman. Now he takes another woman as a wife. So first wife became very angry. You broke my promise. So she complains to her father, Yayati's father-in-law. Yayati's father-in-law curses Yayati that you broke the promise that you made to my daughter. You took another wife. You had said that you will not take anybody else. Now may your youth go away, disappear. He was a young man. Father-in-law cursed him. So when father-in-law curses, the words have to come true. Yayati lost his youth. He was a young man, but youth went away. He became an old man. Now, when old age comes, you cannot satisfy desires. Body becomes weak, sense organs become weak. Sarvendriyanam janayanti tejaha. Nachiketa says in Kathopanishad. When a person becomes old, a person's ability to enjoy sense objects will greatly diminish. We can't. So much food is there, we can't eat. So many other objects are there, we cannot enjoy them because of old age. Body becomes weak, sense organs become weak. So that happens to Yayati. He became very unhappy. King has all the resources to fulfill a desire, but body became old. So he goes back to the father-in-law and begs for forgiveness. Father-in-law was a compassionate man. He said, all right, I can reverse your old age into youth, but somebody has to take over your old age. It has to be directed to somebody else. If somebody agrees to take over your old age and give them his youth, I will arrange that to happen. So Yayati made an announcement in the kingdom. He said that anybody, young man in the kingdom who is willing to give me his youth in exchange for my old age, I will give half the kingdom and other things. He thought there will be a long line of people in front of the palace next morning. Nobody came to offer their youth. Then he has 4 sons. He goes to the first son, Yayati's first son. He says, son, can you give me your youth and take my old age? I'll give you kingdom, half the kingdom right now. So first son said, no dad, I want to keep my youth for myself. I can't give that. You made a mistake, you deal with it, and I want to keep my youth. Kingdom I will get anyhow later. So Yayati goes to second son. Same thing, he also refused to give his youth. Yayati goes to third son. Same thing. He said, Dad, you got into the problem, tough luck, you deal with it. I can't give my youth. I want to enjoy my youth myself. Kingdom I will get anyhow later. Fourth son agrees to give his youth to his father. He says, Father, you can take my youth, I will take your old age, I don't need any kingdom, don't worry, you can enjoy the youth. So the father-in-law arranges the ceremony and Yayati regains his youth. And this fourth boy got his old age and he goes away. So second time when youth came with renewed zeal and greater gusto, Yayati began to enjoy the pleasures of life. He was a king and he had all these resources, goes on enjoying all the pleasures for a long time. Then again in course of time, that youth also faded away. Old age came, old age has to come in the natural course of events. Second time he came very old. Then he was a thoughtful person. He thinks about his own life. I have enjoyed so much pleasures of all kinds that only a king can enjoy for a very long time, longer than anybody else can. Still my desires have not gone away. They are as strong or stronger than before. This is very interesting. So he goes to his wife, first wife Devyani, and confesses to her. He says, see, I enjoyed so much pleasures for a very long time. Still the desires have gone away. It is futile to try to quench the desire by fulfilling it, he says. Yes, very nice verse is there in the Bhagavatam. Yayati says to his wife, Najata kama kamanam upabhogena shamyate havisha krishna vartmeva bhuya eva abhivardhate. Krishna vartma means fire. If there is a fire and if you want to quench it, if you pour ghee on the fire to quench it, it will not be quenched. It will become a bigger fire. Desires are like that. We are discussing the desire. Sangha, attachment leading to desire has come in the mind now. How to deal with it. If you fulfill it, it will come back demanding for more. Supposing you don't fulfill it, then what happens? Then kamat krodho vijayate. Desire turns into anger. Anger is a very bad enemy of human beings. In the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asks a question of Sri Krishna. Arjuna asks, why do people make mistakes? Why people commit sinful deeds? So many people do so many bad things every day we see in the news. Why this happens? Why can't they always do the right thing? Arjuna's question is in third chapter of the Gita. Athakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichannapi varshneya baladiva niyojitaha. Baladiva, as if somebody is forcing me to do something wrong. Anichannapi, though I don't want to do something wrong, I know this is wrong, but I can't stop myself from doing that one. Something is forcing me to do this thing, knowing that it is wrong. What is it? What makes a person do bad things, knowing that it is bad? If you don't know by mistake, if you do something out of ignorance, that is one thing. But knowing that it is wrong, still people do mistakes. What is it that makes people do mistakes like that, commit sinful deeds like that? That was Arjuna's question. In response to this, Sri Krishna gives his answer. Sri Krishna says, Kama esha krodha esha rajo guna samudbhavaha mahashano mahapapma Vidyena miha vairinam. There are two enemies. Actually, there is only one appearing as two. Kama esha, krodha esha. Esha means this, singular pronoun. There is only one thing that makes people do bad things. What is it is one aspect of it is kama, one side of it is krodha. Kama means desire, uncontrolled desire. Krodha means anger. They are like two sides of a coin. You can't separate. If you have one, the other is also there. Kama yesha krodha yesha. Because it is because of kama, desire, or krodha, and krodha, both, and or krodha, anger. These are the two reasons why people commit all kinds of deeds, bad deeds, and then get into trouble. So we are discussing krodha. When anger comes, then it's very difficult. Then anger makes a person forget what is right, what is wrong. Krodha bhavati sammoha. Delusion comes. Delusion means not able to think properly. This krodha is a very, very great enemy of man. Kama, krodha, both of these things are very big, great enemies of human beings. It is because of them that people encounter all kinds of suffering in life. So, again in the 16th chapter, we are discussing krodha, anger now. 16th chapter, verse number 21. There, Bhagavan Sri Krishna adds one more thing. Lobha, greed also plays a part. There he says, Trividam narakasyedam dvaram nasanamatmanaha kamaha krodha tatha lobha tasmadetatrayam tyajet. Very nice verse. In the 16th chapter, verse 21, Sri Krishna says, Narakasya trividam dvaram. There are three big gateways to Naraka, means hell, place of suffering. Suffering in human life. We don't have to go to some other loka. Even here, hell can happen. Suffering can happen. There are three reasons why people suffer. What are they? Kama, uncontrolled desire. Immoral, adharmic desire. Krodha, anger. And then third one is lobha, greed. Greed can kill. How greed can kill? There is a very nice story. Some time ago this story came. It was written by Leo Tolstoy, Russian author. The story about a farmer who was greedy for land. He already had a land, piece of land. He could have stayed happily, lived happily with the land he already had with his family, wife and children. But no, he wanted more land. So he purchased more land. Then he was not satisfied. At that stage, he should have remained satisfied. I have enough land now. No, more greed, more land. This went on and on and on. He neglected his family and looking only for more land. Then finally what happened? Somebody tells him there is some other remote region where land is free. You can go there and have as much land as you want. So he left his family and went to the remote land because he wanted more land. There, in an effort to get free land, more and more land, he died. How did he die? Greed killed him. How did it happen? He goes to that remote area where land is free. Anybody can take any area of land and they can cultivate and keep it for them. No money is to be paid. So this farmer goes there. And there was a chieftain, chief of that place, who had to give the permission to occupy the land. So this farmer goes to the chief and asks the chief, I want a lot of land. How much land do you want? I want more land. The chief says, all I do you one thing. So we don't measure land and give, there is no price. But how much land you want, you can decide. But on this condition, tomorrow morning at sunrise, you come to this spot. A spot was fixed in that huge area, land. No boundaries. And you start walking. By sunlight, by sunset, if you must come back. Whatever area you cover during the day, that land is yours for the asking, for free. You can have it. So next morning, the farmer was waiting before sunrise. I went to this spot. As soon as sun rose, he started walking. The chief and some other village people were standing there. They thought he will walk for about 2-3 hours and come back, and no, he went on walking. He wanted to cover more and more and more area. Whole day he walked without taking rest, without drinking water, without stopping for lunch or anything. Evening comes, we have to come back to the same spot before sunset. That was the condition. So he comes back, he looking at the horizon, western horizon, sun is sinking lower and lower, and is still a little bit distant, far away from that spot. He has to reach that spot before sunset. So with great difficulty, he kept running a whole day without taking rest. He reached that spot just as sun had gone down the horizon. Just at that moment of sunset, he reached that spot where he had a great return. And then because of this total exhaustion, he died. Then the chief of the area, he felt very sad for this fellow who gave up his life to gain more land. So they all dug a grave, and they lowered him, closed the grave, and the chief said one sentence: "This is all the land really needed, 6 feet by 3 feet." Greed can kill. So, Krodha, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, these are 3 things that can create great disaster in human life if they are not properly controlled at the right time. So, Krodha. Krodhat moti sammoha, delusion comes. When a person becomes angry, that person loses the ability to think. Insanity takes over. We become temporarily insane when we are angry. We say and do things which we would not ordinarily do in our saner moments. In anger, we don't know what we are saying, what we are doing. People throw things and hit other people and do other things, get into trouble. Once the wave of anger passes, then we regret, oh, what did I say, what did I do? We can't take it back. Action once done cannot be recalled. Words once said cannot be recalled. So we have to live with the consequences. Sammoha smriti vibhramaha. Because of this delusion, next step, 6th step is smriti vibhramaha. Smriti means recollection, remembrance of who we are, what we are, where the situation in which we are, that will be lost. We don't know. We don't know what we are, what is happening, and what situation I am in. Am I in the Vedanta center? Am I someplace else? Am I in a bar? Am I in some other place? We don't know. We just keep on doing and saying things because anger has robbed this person of sanity. Smriti Brahmsha, recollection of who am I, what is the goal of life, what I should be doing, what I should not be doing, all that will be forgotten. Smriti Brahmsha. 7th step is Buddhinasha. Loss of intellectual power, loss of ability to discriminate what is right, what is wrong, what is true, what is false. That ability to separate will be lost. Smriti Brahmshat, Buddhi Nasha, intellectual power, thinking power will be lost completely. Buddhi Nashat Pranashyati. Once that happens, the person goes to the rock bottom. He may end up in jail or in some other undesirable situation. So that is the sequence of 8 steps that Sri Krishna has described in these 2 verses, 62 and 63. Kama, we have discussed Buddhinasha. Smriti Brahmsha means forgetting our true nature, which is Sachidananda, Smriti Brahmsha. I am the divine, or I am a child of God. A devotee thinks I am a child of God, I am a devotee of God, I am a servant of God. That's what we should be thinking. Jnani says I am that Brahman, I am the Sachidananda. Either way, we forget our true nature, and then our ability to think will go away, and we end up doing all kinds of bad things, and we have to live with the consequences. Buddhinasha. Now, how did the whole sequence of 8 things start in the first place? Because of ignorance of our true nature. I do not have the experience of my infinite Satchidananda nature. I am experiencing limitation. I have this only body-mind consciousness, and this avidya, this lack of knowledge of the self, is what causes us to think about outside objects. Oh, if I purchase this, I'll be happy. If I do that, I'll be happy. If I go on this vacation, I'll be happy. So all these thoughts will come. Why? Because we are always seeking happiness. The only place where happiness can be found unconditionally, unconditional, eternal, infinite happiness can be found is the self within, Satchidananda within. Apart from that, any other place, if we look for happiness, it will only give us disappointment. This is nicely explained in one verse in the second chapter, in the fifth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verse number 22. This verse has come before. Why we seek happiness outside, in the outside world, in property, in position, in power, in relationships, in family life, in money? Why do we seek happiness in these things? Because we don't experience our infinite happiness, which is intrinsic within us. Somehow that is masked from us. So that ignorance is what causes us to think about outside objects looking for happiness. But there is no happiness in the outside world, in sense objects. That is explained in one verse, verse number 22 in chapter 5. There Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, Ye hi samsparshaja bhoga dukkhayo evate adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. Samsparshaja bhoga means happiness that comes from contact of sense organ, sense object. Sparsha means contact. This is a gold ornament. If I wear it, I will be very happy. Sense organ, sense object. Mind is also a sense organ. Mind says, I want to wear a gold chain or gold ornament, gold ring. That makes me happy. So we look for that one. So that, how much happiness will that give? For some time you feel good, then it becomes routine. Then you have some other desire will come. If I have a diamond necklace, that will be happy. Like, where does it end? Chasing happiness where it cannot be found. Ye samsparshaja bhoga, this kind of pleasure that comes as a result of contact between sense organ, sense object, that is temporary, fleeting, only for a short time. Same thing with other sensory pleasures, only for a short time we get the satisfaction. Adyantavanta, they have a beginning and an end. Therefore, the wise person, Buddha means a buddhiman, a person endowed with wisdom. Teshu naramate, does not take any delight in seeking such sensory pleasures. Why do they know? Why we should not seek happiness in sensory objects, sense objects? Because they are highly conditional. Especially relationship. If you want to seek happiness from another person, it's not a permanent kind of relationship. That other person may or may not reciprocate your love for you. Or in the beginning they may, and in the end they may change. People will change. So that is not permanent. It's fleeting, highly conditional. Depends upon something else. This is what Nachiketa said when Yama offered him. The story of Nachiketa comes in Kathopanishad. When Nachiketa wanted to have self-knowledge, what is the nature of the self, Yama didn't want to give him the answer to that question of what is self-knowledge, what happens after death. Body goes away. Yama thinks this is a very young boy, 8 or 9 years old, and is asking this profound question. Is he asking it out of simply curiosity to impress me, or is he really interested? And even if I give the answer, is he able to understand? Can he grasp it? So Yama wanted to make sure. So Yama offers a lot of things to Nachiketa. Yama says to Nachiketa, don't worry about what happens after death because you are still very young. and I will give you, instead I will give you a large kingdom as you want. I'll give you all the other things, queen and horses and chariots and dance and music and elephants and army and wealth and treasure, everything I will give you. I'll give you a long life also to enjoy all these things as long as you want. Take all those things and don't worry about death and self-knowledge, etc. But Nachiketa was persistent. He says, no, I want only self-knowledge. These other things that you are offering, you can give to those who are seeking. Why does he not want them? He says, Shobhava martyasya yadantakaitat. Oh, Lord of Death, Yama, these things you are offering, they are Shobhava. I mean, today they will not be there, and tomorrow they will not be there. Today they are there, tomorrow means in a near future or some future date, they will go away. How long will the kingdom be there? How long will the queen will be there? How long will the elephants and horses and music will be there? For some time only. One of two things will happen. All those things will be there intact and I will become old and die. Or I will be there and all those things will be taken away from me. One way or other separation comes, so I don't want these things. Second reason why Nachiketa does not want these things is Sarvendriyanam Jarayanti Tejaha. All these sensory pleasures, food, etc., you can enjoy only for a short time. Because with time, as we go on enjoying, the sense organs body becomes so weak, they lose their acuity and they lose their ability to enjoy sense objects. In old age, when we are young, we can eat any kind of food as much as we want. Pizza and cheese, cream cheese and chocolate cake and all those things, and we can keep on eating without thinking. But very soon what happens, the body becomes old, unable to eat anything. So much food is there, but I can't eat anything. Old age comes, disease comes, then these things cannot be enjoyed. So I don't want these things. I want something, self-knowledge, which is the only source of permanent, eternal, infinite, unconditional ananda. That only I want. That is how Nachiketa insisted upon self-knowledge. All our sense objects, they will not give lasting happiness. Dukkha yonaya evate, 522 Gita. They only in the end cause disillusionment and unhappiness. For a short time they will give some pleasure. So this lack of self-knowledge is the cause of seeking happiness outside. So avidya, the problem starts with lack of self-knowledge. Avidya, lack of, starts with ignorance of our true knowledge. So it makes us look for happiness outside, in the outside objects. So that's the desire comes. Desire comes for outside objects comes because we don't know self-knowledge, we have self-knowledge. When desire comes, then all the other things happen one after another. Fulfillment, desire becomes stronger and demands more. Addiction comes, not able to fulfill. Anger comes, and then all those things until buddhi nashat pranashyati, last stage is going to be total ruin. Now, we have to do two things. How to stop going in this downward spiral, and when it has to be done. The sooner we catch ourselves caught in this spiral, better it is. The longer we stay in this spiral, more difficult it will become. It's easier in the earlier stages. Before anger comes, if you control anger, before it comes, then it is easy. Once anger comes, it is very difficult to control it. Therefore, the first stage is dhyana, thinking. We should think only about our true nature, ourself, and then we should not think about sense objects, because then temptation will come. So, that is why we should control what we think about. There are two ways to get out of this downward spiral: a direct method and an indirect method. How to get out of this spiral? Thinking about sense object, and then attachment, then desire, then anger, then loss of memory, etc. How to get out of that spiral? Two methods are there. One is direct method to get out of this loop. It consists in defying avidya, becoming free from ignorance, which is the root cause of all suffering. According to our Vedanta, our true nature is divine. We are the Sachidananda. So the path of knowledge, directly seeking self-knowledge, meditating on the self, taking the position, I am that self, I am not the body, I am not the mind. Mano, buddhi, ahankara, chitta, ninaham, etc. Shankaracharya's Nirvana Shatkam has come several times. I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the sense organs, I don't have any relationship, I have no teacher, I have no student, no father, no mother. I am that self. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. In the Song of Sannyasin, Swami Vivekananda says, all this that we are attracted to is a dream-like reality only, it's not true. There in the Song of Sannyasin, there is one stanza like this. They know not truth who dream such vacant dreams as father, mother, children, wife and friend. The sexless self, whose father he, whose child, whose friend, whose foe is he who is but one. The self is all in all, none else exists, and thou art that sannyasin bowl, say Om, Tat Sat Om. This is direct method. Taking that position, I am that self, I am Sachidananda, infinite joy is within me. What other outside object can increase my joy? So no interest in outside objects. That person remains firmly practicing self-awareness, then becomes a Sita Prajna. But many people cannot do this. It is a very difficult method. As Sri Ramakrishna explains many times in the Gospel, the path of knowledge is very difficult for majority of people in the Kali Yuga. In the Kali Yuga, we are used to sense objects. And he says in the Kali Yuga, man's life depends upon food. Food means all sense objects. So what is the easier method, simpler way? Sri Ramakrishna says, simpler way is to practice the path of devotion. And he gives 9 different things. We have studied that Sri Ramakrishna's 9 instructions earlier. Similarly, other sages have described the path of devotion. Narada Maharshi has given the path of devotion, and Prahlada has given 9 steps of devotion. All those things can be, any of those things can be followed, and either way, either by following the path of action, or either by following the path of knowledge, affirming I am that self, or by practicing the devotional practices, we have to overcome this ignorance that I am the body, mind, I am that, gain the knowledge that I am this self. Then only we will be completely free from the ravages that desire can cause. So we will stop here. Next time when we meet, we shall continue. The next topic will be how to overcome this cycle, get out of this loop, downward spiral of this kama, krodha, etc., and how to regain our original pristine state, where we are free from all these blemishes. So we'll do verse number 64 next time when we meet. I shall chant the verse now, and we will study this verse in detail next time. Verse number 64. Ragadvesha viyuktaistu vishayanindriyaischaran atmavashyer videyatma prasadamadigatchati. Ragadvesha viyuktaistu vishayanindriyaischaran atmavashyer videyatma prasadamadigatchati. A Sita Prajna or a devotee, such a person tries to become free from raga, dvesha, attachment and aversion, and then controlling the sense organs, using the controlled sense organs, dealing with sense objects, such a person achieves eternal peace. Prasadam adhigacchati. Peace of mind will come. So how to do this one, we will study next time. Now I shall say the closing prayer. If you have any questions or comments, please send me email. I'll be happy to respond. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may all be happy, may all be free from afflictions, may all realize what is noble and auspicious, may no one be subject to misery. Om, peace, may there be peace in our hearts, may there be peace and harmony amongst all beings, may there be peace everywhere in nature. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Stay well, and until we meet next time, all the best. Thank you very much.